Surprise. What is this comment moderation thing? Only your followers will be able to leave comments. Commenters will only be able to comment every 10 seconds. Only comments over 100 characters will be shown. Commenters must have accounts that are at least 2 weeks old. Commenters must have followed you for at least 15 minutes. We want it to be follower. So, surprise everybody, not a scheduled live. Jax West from Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, and MAM Gossip. I had just been over on the Justice with Jax discussion group because we were going to be covering the Scott Peterson case. Didn't really have many people that showed up, and I didn't like the 2020 episode. So I really don't want to be subjected to having to watch it again for 2 hours if there's nobody there that is really interested. So I decided to do a surprise pop-up over here and see if anybody in Gossip has anything they want to chat about. Free form, whatever you want to discuss. I am back up in my spare bedroom. My nephew moved out yesterday, so I am trying to get used to using my computer and camera and microphone. So if there are any issues that you're seeing, if you can't hear me or whatever, let me know. I did usually when I'm up in this room, I've got a backdrop that says Justice with Jax that I put up behind me, but I've been cleaning the room all day since my nephew moved out, and I want Jeff to shampoo the carpet, so I'm not going to move that in here until the carpet's been done. So you just stare at my room for today. So anything on the Stephen Avery case you want to discuss, whatever. Got any questions for me? Or maybe nothing at all, since this was not a scheduled live. So we may not have a turnout of people with anything to say or ask. Hi, Kylie. We do have a live set up in here. I think it's Wednesday. I know Christopher and I had talked about doing it on Thursday, but I think the event was made for Wednesday. Not sure. Where I was going to discuss the rally. And so I can discuss that with y'all a little bit right now, and we'll still do the live later in the week to talk about it. So last year we did our first rally, and the reason we organized it is because Kim Ducat, who is Steven's cousin, the family doesn't treat her well, and she's never been really included on the family rally that they do. And even the times that she had gone, she was treated poorly. And she really wanted to participate in a rally. So we scheduled one last year. We scheduled it to be in July because the family rally is always in June. So we were pushing it away from that rally. And then we made it at the end of July because I didn't want to schedule anything that was too close to the 4th of July. Because there's Jeff messaging me, where's your backdrop? Hi, Jeff. I already explained I'm not bothering to put the backdrop in here yet until after you've shampooed the carpets. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't have our rally that was too close to the 4th of July, because a lot of people have their own holiday plans, and so to have things too close together. So we made it at the end, and so now this year doing it again, I wasn't so sure if I even wanted to do it again, even though it was a really good time. We didn't have a huge turnout. We were in the midst of COVID. So, but the people who did come, we had a lot of fun. And somebody had suggested, I can't remember who, if that person comes on here, take a bow. It was their suggestion to do it at Waupun Correctional, where Stephen is. The family rally they do is at the courthouse. And I'm like, I like it being at the prison because there is the chance that, I don't know, you don't know where Stephen is in the prison. If he sees out a window or whatever, maybe he could see that people were there and is able to see that he has supporters. So, and I thought people might be interested. A courthouse is a courthouse. You seen one, you seen them all. Going to the actual prison, I thought people would be interested in seeing that. So we did that last year. Last year we did both prisons. We went to Stevens and Brendan's, but Brendan's prison was not happy to have us there, and it's in the middle of nowhere where there's no public sidewalks. You can always do a protest on public property, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. But at Brendan's prison, now you're stuck. You would only have to be on the road, and it's just a whole lot of complications. So this year we're only going to go to Stevens prison. It's not that we don't support Brendan as well. We do. But Stevens prison is in the middle of a neighborhood, and there's public sidewalks. You can walk completely around, all the way around the prison. So that's what we're going to do. We have a hotel that Christopher has reserved. There's a block of rooms, but they're only holding them for a short period of time. Christopher had a very hard time in finding a hotel that would work with us, because apparently somebody from the Avery family had been calling, hello cat, had been calling the hotels in the area and telling them horror stories about our group, and made it so people didn't want to work with us. So Christopher has a hotel that is reserved that isn't a fancy schmancy place. We're trying to keep the price low. So I believe he had said something like it's $116 a night. But we're not making public where the hotel is and how to book it. So you have to message this page, or message me, or message Christopher to get the instructions on how to book the hotel. And hold on, why are my dogs barking their heads up? Amazon here. Yep, they're so childish, Cindy. So if you are interested and want to stay at that hotel, message us and we'll give you the information. You don't have to stay at that hotel. You can stay wherever you would like. You can, it's a trip. So do what is going to be fun for you. So don't feel like you have to rush and book this, but they are only holding those rooms for just a couple of weeks, and then they're going to release them. It doesn't mean that they won't still be available, but they're just not going to keep them to the side. In looking at all the hotels in the area, they seem to be, in my opinion, all pretty costly. So know that going into it, if you are going to stay there, the sooner you do book, probably the better, because there is something, I can't remember what Christopher said, there is some event going on in the area that weekend that is also taking up rooms. It's a really beautiful area, and lots to see and do there. So I am not staying at that hotel. Jeff has rented me a cottage on the lake. And so that is where we are going to be having our happy hour on the Saturday night. So whoever comes to the rally and is at the prison during the day will then be given the address to come hang out at the cottage on the lake, where we will have our happy hour, that we will spend some time together. We'll do Facebook Live and discuss the case. And we're still working on some things. So we're thinking about, because last year we also would meet for some meals. So Saturday morning, I was thinking, so we would meet around 10 a.m. for breakfast, and then be at the prison like at noon. And then you're only at the prison for an hour, 90 minutes. It's not an all day thing. People don't like to stand at a protest or a rally for longer than 90 minutes. So we would then be at Waupun for like the 90 minutes. We will be doing Facebook Live from the prison for those who are not able to attend. And then people will be on their own for the afternoon. And then I was thinking about, we meet for dinner, and then everybody back to my place for the happy hour and live discussion for Saturday night. For anybody who is coming on, because I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was also thinking possibly for people who come, that are coming on Friday, that we would do a sign making party at my place. So I don't know all that Christopher has been working on as well, but like I said, we do have a live that is scheduled later on this week that is just to talk about the rally. So everything I've just said will be going over again. But if you have any questions or any suggestions or ideas to, make it a fun rally, reach out to me or to Christopher. We're open to suggestions. I have talked to Jeff about making a shirt, which always drives me crazy because it's just a pain in the ass, a pain in the smurf to make the shirts, and it's a whole lot of work for Jeff and myself because I go and help him, and there isn't a whole lot of people who order them. And then there is the debate over what to do with profit. Last year we had the masks. Do I even still have a mask up here? I think they're all downstairs. No, the bulk of them are up here. I've got a whole lot of these masks left. So we made these masks last year. Trying to show the whole thing. How many do I have left here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I have 28 masks left. Let me write that down because I'm going to forget. 28 masks. And there's Natalie asking me where I am. So we made these masks last year, and I can't remember how much I sold them for, because again, numbers, I don't remember numbers. So anybody who bought a mask last year, if you remember what you paid for them, tell me, because I don't remember. So I have these left over. And so I guess what I'll do with these is anybody who books a hotel this year will get a free mask while supplies are available. You know, so first come, first serve on who has booked a hotel. That I'll give you one of those masks. It has last year's date on it. July 25th. Oh, and we did it at 2 p.m. So, yeah, sorry, Natalie. I was over there and there wasn't anybody there who was interested in Scott Peterson, so I came over here and just did an open discussion, and now I'm talking about the rally. So I had those masks last year, sold those masks. I don't remember how much money I made on selling the masks. It was not a lot of money. But what I ended up doing is I donated $100 to Steven's commissary and $100 to Brendan's commissary. So that is money out of my pocket. You know, we didn't get that money that came in from those masks and what shirts I sold. Because another thing I've done with the shirts that we sold last year, one was for MAM Gossip, one was Justice with Jax, and one is Stephen Avery Project. So only one of those, Stephen Avery Project, uses Stephen's name. The other things, you know, so technically people can't complain that I'm making money on whatever and where's that money going? Well, because MAM Gossip is my group and Justice with Jax is my group, so I could keep that money if I wanted. But what I ended up doing is, like I said, I gave $100 to Steven and $100 to Brendan. Neither one acknowledged it. Not that I need, you know, somebody to say thank you, but it makes me wonder for this year if I am to do a shirt, or we don't have people that really stay at a hotel and I have these masks, or I know there's been people who don't come who want to buy a mask and we send the mask out. You know, do I still give this money to Stephen and Brendan who don't seem to care? And then, but I don't want to be, oh, look at me making money off this case when it's something that I'm really upset about, when that's what the family seems to do. But so many people want shirts, and, you know, my boyfriend. Oh, Jeff, are you on right now? Does this mean I have to call you my fiance? because Jeff and I are getting married now. Um, he owns a print shop. So it is very easy, not easy, because it's, like I said, it's a pain to do this work, to make these shirts and ship them places and all that. But it's what Jeff does for a living, that he can print anything. He can do anything. So, but then I also sit there and think that no matter what I do, I'm attacked for. Somebody just sent me, thank you, Belinda. Okay, Natalie, I'll get on that in a second. Somebody sent me screenshots today of somebody talking crap about me in Sandy Greenman's group, and then Sandy Greenman saying my name in some, Sandy likes people to think poorly of me because she needs to make sure that Steven doesn't like me. She had to sabotage that whole thing. Thanks, China. So I'll talk with Jeff, and we'll probably do a shirt. Any shirt that Jeff is going to design is going to be way better than you would see. That family shirt is horrible. The thing to know with the shirts that Jeff does, he's, in the past, all the shirts we did were cotton shirts. And then that's vinyl that gets cut into whatever is being printed onto the shirt, that then basically is ironed onto the shirt. And the vinyl is a real pain to, it's called weeding it. And that's the thing that I would always have to do, is go there and weed it. It's horrible. But now he's got the ability to do it, but the shirts have to be polyester, where now you don't have to weed anything, and it goes on the shirt and looks way better. Please, no lime green. Yeah. So polyester, I mean, I've got a bunch of shirts like that, but for those of you who might be fat like me, polyester is a horrible shirt for fat people to wear. But it does, because it shows, I mean, not like it's a big shock that, you can still see that somebody's fat, but, and then with doing it on the polyester, then it also has to be a lighter colored shirt for the print to be able to be seen. So, and seen well. So, but white shirts, no. I don't like white shirts. So that's why last year we did mostly gray, a light gray, which also, with it being Steven, and I think of prison and gray prison walls. So last year's shirts were a gray polyester. So I'll talk to Jeff, have him design something, or we can just do the same ones we did last year for Justice with Jax, Stephen Avery Project, and MAM Gossip, because I still like all of those. Let me go back. Belinda says, keep it because you pay for all the court docs. Well, thank you, Belinda. People did donate to me this year, or recently, for court docs. So like that last one that I had to pay $21 for, $24 for, something like that, that was covered by you all. So I did get reimbursed for that. So that is much appreciated. And then now back to Natalie on Scott Peterson. That's something, Natalie, if you want to discuss something on Scott Peterson, but that 2020 episode, that's what I was supposed to be covering on Justice with Jax today, I hated it. And I really hated that it had Nancy Grace and Geraldo Rivera, and Natalie reminded me earlier today, Dan Abrams as the experts on all, and it's just like, you lose all credibility to me when you're going to have those people talk about the case. Even if they're going to say things, that they're saying he's guilty and I think he's guilty, so we're on the same page, it's still, I don't like hearing anything those people have to say. So, I get that his Scott Peterson's sister-in-law has things that should have been looked at, and I agree. But to me, things overwhelmingly point to Scott Peterson. And then Natalie sent me earlier in the week that a YouTuber, I guess Barb pops up on people's YouTube videos and comments on them. And, I don't have to pull out my iPad. I can just go on my other screen here because now I have two screens again. So I can just pull up the screenshots. Where are you, screenshots? Natalie, do you message me a whole lot? Why am I not finding these? Or was it from a while ago? All right, it went too fast. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Hold, please. No. Still looking. Why can't I find them? Okay, here it is. All right, so these are the things that she sent me that Barb had posted on this YouTube thing. First one says, because he wasn't, like I said before, it was all a setup. They were watching all of us, I believe. Okay, now she's talking Smurf about the new witness, saying, in which paper was he delivering? And then she said, Brendan is doing good. Talked with him tonight. Next one, she said, none of us bought the Herald Times. And then somebody asked her, Barb, no computer in Bobby's room? And then Natalie said the YouTuber called Barb out for lying when she said none of them bought the Herald Times. They clapped back, yes, Chucky did. And it's in a call with Dolores talking about the Herald Times newspaper being delivered. Barb answered to the one person saying, never said the computer wasn't in Bobby's room, but this family is all innocent, period. Then she said Bear was a friendly dog. And then she said he didn't lie. Maybe he couldn't remember because it was also in the living room for a while. Let me scroll back down. Kat thinks he's guilty. Don't mean I want to hear it from their mouths. Yes. Natalie, I knew you would as soon as I saw Nancy Grace and Dan Abrams. Yes, it was trying to cram too much into one episode. The Murder of Lacey Peterson is a better documentary. Yeah, and it's multiple episodes. Cat bar pops up like a weed on YouTube. So, leave it to Barb to once again trying to discredit a witness that would help free Brendan and Stephen. It's just crazy to me. Natalie says, so basically she was caught by the YouTuber lying in the live chat because he knows from the evidence she was lying. But it drives me crazy because this new witness makes it so the whole case that they have against Stephen and Brendan, where's in there that your star witness Bobby is pushing the car onto the property? So that witness is good for Brendan and good for Stephen, but Barb doesn't care what's good for Brendan or Stephen. She has to protect Bobby and Scott at all costs. And that's another issue I have with this whole rally crap. And I know people over on that side get upset when I do the thing where there's a difference between fans and supporters. If you go to their rally, you're just a fan of making a murderer or the family. Because why are you going to go to something that don't want you to talk about the case? Because the case, everything is pointing at Bobby. And the family doesn't want any mention of that. The family sues Stephen. You think Kayla and Brittany are going to be at this rally wanting to soak up people's adoration? Look at all their peasants. Yet she had filed a suit for harassment against Stephen. So why don't you go there and celebrate that? Why don't you give them money to go hang out in a Holiday Inn with them? So you're not a supporter of Stephen and Brendan's innocence. If you want to go to something that is done by people who are doing everything they can to keep Stephen and Brendan in prison, family or not. Belinda says, I don't think she wants Brendan free. I think Barb does want Brendan free. Scott does not. Absolutely does not. I do think Barb loves her son and that she does want him home. It's Stephen they don't want out. Because once Stephen goes home, their party ends. Stephen's going to take control of everything. So you think it's bad between that family now. You wait till Stephen gets out, who has been demanding from Carla for years to shut her Facebook page down. And Carla won't do it. So what do you think he's going to do when he's out? And Sandy started her own Facebook page. So what if Stephen now takes control of that page and that's like the page that Stephen is at? You think anybody's going to go to Carla's page when Stephen's on Facebook? Belinda says he is halfway through his sentence, so she is happy to leave him to finish out so the others stay free. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I see your point there, Belinda. Natalie, I hope the YouTuber is sending all these screenshots from her to the live chat, because every time she speaks or posts trying to deny things and stick up for Bobby and Scott, she admits to perjury and is always caught in more lies. Yeah, when she says Bobby saw her leave that day, or when you had Scott say that he was never there that day. So, yeah. They'd be better off shutting their mouths, but they can't help themselves. But neither can I. Here I am, spouting again. Kat says, I think Barb loves her kids. She just loves one of them more than the others. And loves herself most of all. She was more concerned spending time with Scott and getting married to Scott than she was helping Brendan. Ashley, why is Bobby the only family member who seems untouched by all of this? It's really weird. Yeah, I don't know why Bobby is so put on a pedestal. Deborah says it's nice to get a different perspective. It is. And I am all good with all different theories. And oh, my mom just messaged me. Sorry. Okay. My mom, I had posted a thing on that I'm going to be talking about the Scott Peterson, a reminder on my page. And then my mom was commenting on it, and she says, please don't tell me you think he's innocent, because she knows that, the whole Stephen Avery stuff and all that. And I just laughed at her, and she said, that's not an answer. And I said, I guess you're going to have to tune in and see. My mom doesn't watch my lives or anything, but here she is now saying, okay, either I don't know how to do this live stuff or you are incredibly late. And then she goes on some more. I'm not going to go into all of that. But, all right, so back to what I was saying. Everybody can have their theories on what happened to Teresa Halbach. People can have their feelings on the Avery family. I am disgusted by most of the Avery family. I get people who feel bad for Barb. I don't have an issue with people who feel bad for Barb. And I want people here, like I allowed that one post that somebody had made. If somebody says they feel bad for Barb, you don't attack that person. All right? You can disagree with somebody without being a smurf to the person. So you can say, I disagree with you because of XYZ. Not, I think you're a smurfing smurf and how smurfing stupid are you to think. We don't need any of that. The only thing I don't allow to be discussed is what if Stephen and Brendan are guilty? Because they're not. And we're not going there here. So, but I like to see people's opinions on things. It's just your opinion. Everybody's entitled to it. And that's that. Let me scroll back. Natalie says, let's call a spade a spade. They want Brendan out because he will be traipsed out in the media to make money, controlled by Barb. But if Stephen gets out, he'll be face of the media and will need a PR representative, and the money will go in his direction. That's why it's beneficial to them to get Brendan out and keep Stephen in. Natalie says he's on a pedestal because, say this in Barb's voice, he's got 2 kids to take care of. Yeah, I don't care. But Bobby was given the opportunity to have kids and raise kids. Brendan was not. Stephen was not. That was taken from both of them. So he should cherish the time he had with his children. Why is it okay to take Stephen from his kids? Kat says, I respectfully disagree with that person who feels bad for Barb. I can be nice. Yeah. So, and the other thing I say, if people make posts that you don't agree with or like, you don't have to read their posts. You can hide them. You don't need to see those people's posts ever. The only people you can't block are moderators. If you block a moderator, then we'll kick you out of the group. If we catch you. And I regularly look. So, and remove people all the time. So I've got a really bad history with the Avery family. And I'm not going to hide my feelings for the family. But that doesn't mean I think everybody should feel about the family the way that I do. But you can have whatever opinion, that's what it is. It's an opinion. So mine's just more educated than yours. Ashley, has the IRS investigated where all of this donated money is going? Ashley, I know for the GoFundMe that Barb had done, people started questioning it and wanted to see proof of what was happening with it. And so Barb just took it down so nobody could see. So I don't think there's ever been any investigation, nor do I think there ever will be, because I think the majority of people who see Making a Murderer feel bad for the Avery family, because people who just watch Making a Murderer, they don't dive into the case, and they don't see everything there is. Ooh, Belinda. Deborah says, is there really that much money anyway? Well, there was when Making a Murderer 1 came out. A GoFundMe was made right away, and it made a substantial amount of money that was to be divided between Stephen and Brendan. And then when Kathleen took over Stephen's case, she swooped in and got Stephen's half. Then Brendan's half was in a bank account that had Dolores, Chuck, and Barb on it. And the way that account was set up is that 2 of the 3 had to sign off for the money coming out, because the family was very afraid. The thing the family kept saying is they didn't want Scott to get a new truck with the money. So I know that nobody knows for sure what has happened with that money. I know that Brendan's lawyers wanted that money and have been given the runaround. Drizzen asked me at one point, where was that money? That he wanted it. So, don't know what's happened with Brendan's portion of it. I know that Stephen at one point asked Brendan for his share of it, so Kathleen could use it for DNA testing. And that Barb, and this is when I was friends with Barb, so I had the inside on that. Barb let Brendan decide, which by Barb allowing Brendan to decide means Barb's going to tell Brendan how he's going to decide. And so Brendan's answer was no, because he knew he wouldn't get it back. So I don't know for sure what has happened to that money. And I don't recall how much it was, because again, me and numbers, it's really bad. It's hard for me to remember an amount, but it was a decent amount. I'm sure I've got a screenshot that has been saved. Hey, sexy girlfriend. I've got a screenshot somewhere that had said how much, but that was the original GoFundMe. And so when that GoFundMe was made, the Avery family wasn't even really on Facebook. So this was done by somebody else. It's once the Avery family took things over is when things went to Smurf. Because, there was a Facebook group. Stephen Avery Project was the first page there was for Making a Murderer. That Curtis Bussey, not I, had started Stephen Avery Project the same month that Making a Murderer 1 came out. Somebody else, her name was Jennifer something, had made another group that got really big. And then once Carla got involved in it, And then she had this girl make her an admin of the group. Then Carla started putting her friends in there as admins. And so then they were trying to push this girl out completely to let it just be Carla's group. And the girl fought it off for a while. But Carla and her people go to really dirty tactics to try and get you. And so then what ended up happening is the group was given to a guilter who then overnight, and I was a member of that group, everybody was getting kicked out because when you have a Facebook group that becomes after so many people, you can't get rid of the group unless you kick the people out. And so it's this long, tedious project of kicking people out, where you're click one person, one at a time, you're kicking these people out. So all of a sudden one night, everybody was getting kicked out and the name of the group kept changing into these horrible things saying Steven is guilty and this or that and blah, 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 until finally then the group was completely gone. And that was done by Carla to sabotage that group because the girl wouldn't just give it to Carla. And so Carla went after her and destroyed it instead. And it had a lot of people. I mean, and that's all Carla cared about is the numbers. So then Carla had made her own group. The one that she has now. That is titled Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey Project. Since this group, which is not this one, but the main one that we have, Stephen Avery Project, is the biggest one. And you do that because if somebody looks up Stephen Avery Project, you're hoping that group comes up as well. And that's how she can pilfer off people because they're looking for our project but end up in her project. See what, she did it on Twitter as well. I've got screenshots of all this stuff. It was so stupid. So a girl who I never mentioned because she's an evil smurf at this point, but at one time was my friend and we worked on all this stuff together. They made a fake Twitter account using that person's name. And so then Carla would have Twitter conversations with this person, like trying to say this person was that person, just to talk crap about her. It's really weird in junior high and just drama, which is why, I ended up starting this MAM gossip group because there's just so much crap that happens around this case. And I wanted some place to talk about all this craziness. And I'm not going to do it on Stephen Avery Project because it sounds crazy, right? And so for the basic Stephen Avery or Making a Murderer fan who doesn't follow any of this stuff, if I talked about this whole Carla sabotaging a group for Stephen and Brendan, they'd be like, what? Well, the first thing we always get is, who's Carla? They don't even know who she is. So that's why this group came to be. Let me scroll back. Good evening, Debbie. 50-inch TVs, permits that they don't need to pay for, and Red Lobster. Red Lobster. For people who are new or just don't pay attention to any of that stuff. Early on, somebody had, it wasn't a GoFundMe, it was called You Care. So it's a crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, whatever you call it thing, but it's called You Care. And so there was one for Carla that they were raising money for her to go to a spa in her favorite restaurant, Red Lobster. So that's what the jokes of Red Lobster, where those come from. And something that Carla does is she will have her minions do this stuff, and then she'll go, I didn't make that you care. Somebody else did it, and I can't control what other people do. Gosh golly, oh gee whiz. So that's the game that she likes to play. But I know from me being friends with Carla at one point and being in the inner circle, I know her game because she flat out told me. She told me how she's got somebody who is not allowed to make any comments anywhere on Facebook. So they're able to go into every group and secretly spy everywhere to report it back to Carla. And just all this dumb stuff. Deborah, they were worried at that time that Scott would get a new truck. He has since then gotten a new truck, and this was after Barb had started her own GoFundMe and cleaned it out and shut it down when people were asking where that money's going for that was supposed to go to Brendan. Deborah says, brings up the question of how Scott and Barb afford the house, land they live on after Brendan was arrested. Yeah. Because Barb sold her trailer to her brother Chuck, which Scott had told me that Chuck screwed them on that deal. Take that how you want. Don't know, don't care. And they had claimed bankruptcy, and Scott is always owing money because he gets hurt on the job all the time and is off on workman's comp or unemployment and needs to pay back medical bills or medical insurance or blah blah blah. So they were able to go from a trailer on family property to that house and land that they have now. China Red Lobster. Natalie says, and forgot boob jobs. Let me clear up the boob job. This is something that people get wrong. Carla had the boob job prior to this. So no money they've pilfered off of people bought Carla's boobs. Her husband Stacy paid for her boob job, and then Carla had an affair, left her entire family, her kids, everything, left, moved out of state to, I want to say it was Iowa, and moved in with this other dude. She and Stacy started to get a divorce. Barb had told me that one of Carla's daughters was even living with Barb at the time because Stacy couldn't control her, and they have 3 kids, and he's working, and he just needed some help. So Barb had the one daughter with her while Carla and her new boobs were out of state cheating on Stacy. I don't know the story of why Carla went back to Stacy, but yeah, so boobs happened before Stacy, her husband, paid for those boobs. So, but here I am to I tell you, I'm just gonna say how it is, so no, she didn't steal money from the fans for boobs. Belinda, that's how I was evicted from the family group, apparently from stuff I said here. Warning to people, say hi to Carla. They're always in here watching everything that's posted, every video that's done. They come and look. They look at the members of this group. There have been times that they have emailed or messaged people from the group. People have forwarded me the messages. Lisa Sekowski is somebody who is real big on that, of messaging anybody who would be a member of my group to then try and tell that person I'm a horrible person and you shouldn't be in this group. But so they do watch this group. And if you say something negative about them, they will kick you out of the family group. Which I'll do the same. You know, if somebody shows me a screenshot that you're over there in the family group and you talk Smurf about me, I'm going to kick you out. So I guess I can't fault them on that if you're saying something. But for just being a member, no. I don't care if you're a member of Barb's group or Carla's group or a Gilter group. You go be part of whatever you want to be a part of. But if I see that you're just here to take stuff elsewhere, to do it in a negative way, then I'm going to kick you out. Natalie, Barb and Scott told people they went bankrupt on the trailer and Chuck bought it from the bank. I didn't hear that. They told me, what they told me is Chuck ripped them off. So, and I never looked into it. That's all I know. Natalie, don't you need to replace boob jobs every 10 to 15 years? Oh, I don't know. Not an expert on that. Mine are all fat. So all real. Belinda says Stacy probably threatened to sue for the boobs back. Well, you can go on. So when you Google Wisconsin criminal records, you can pull up all of their records. So the divorce is in there. And so you can, find information on the divorce. Belinda, to be fair, I was just there to stir shit up. I feel you on that. I can be a good shit stirrer, Smurf stirrer. Natalie, Jax, I went back and replayed your Reading Sweaty's book. I'd heard it back when you first did it, but listened to it again last week and was burst laughing at you. Can you read another one, maybe Wrecking Crew? You should really make audiobooks your career. Well, you said something about that, and I did think about, now that I'm up in my room, I have still... Oh, I have 3 copies of Wrecking Crew. Two Illusion of Justice. What is this one? And they're all autographed. So this one says, to Jax, thanks for fighting for injustice in Stephen's case and every case. Best, Jerry Buting. So, and I've talked about before that I should raffle these off. That so these are all autographed by John Farrick. So we could do a story time where I read. Wrecking Crew is the better book. Illusion of Justice, there's so much filler in this book that isn't Stephen's case. And I just don't care. And that I skipped when I read it. I didn't care to read about Buting's other cases. But maybe we could do that we read John Farrick's book together. It would be in several parts. And then maybe I should do something at the rally. And do stuff with these autographed books. What else do I have up there? Oh my god, there's 2 more copies of Wrecking Crew up there. And like I said, all the copies I have are all autographed. Natalie, I can't remember where I heard that about the bankruptcy in the trailer and Chuck buying it from the bank, but I will find it. If I find it, I'll let you know. That makes sense. Natalie, I feel an MAM quiz night coming on for a signed book. Ooh. Yeah, Christopher's the one that has been posting all those questions in the gossip group. And Christopher, give him a round of applause. Christopher does a really good job of, trying to keep content in this group. So, Christopher absolutely could come up with a quiz. Deborah, are you going to the rally? I missed if you talked about it. Yes, Deborah. The beginning of this, you can go back when we're done being live and you'll be able to play it from the start for everything I said about the rally. But we do have another live scheduled at some point this week that I am supposed to just talk about the rally. But I will be at the rally, and I do have a special place rented that people who are going to the rally will be invited to come there for a special happy hour. So you can hear about that by playing this over or when we go live. I think Christopher made it for Wednesday. We had said something about Thursday, but I think when I saw the event, it said Wednesday. I don't know. Let me click on my events. Yeah, Wednesday. For some reason on my computer it's saying it's at noon, but it's at 1 p.m. I try to keep everything at the same time to try and make it easier for people to find. So that's why everything's always 1 p.m. Central Time. And I try to do everything at 1 p.m. Central Time as well because I have assumed that since we have people all around the world that watch the stuff that might want to be part of a live, that this is the best time to fit most people. It's too hard to get it right for everybody, but this has seemed to be what the majority can hit. So it's Wednesday that we're going to go over rally talk. Cindy, but have you heard about Chuck's other daughter, Stephanie, I think, who had a son who was adopted out? I know Chuck has another daughter. Did Chuck rape that daughter too? It's hard to keep all the raping straight in that family. Oh, great, Deborah. Yeah, so we'll be in Waupun area. Miley, I jumped on late. How is your son doing? Hope he's feeling better. My son is doing great. My son had, for those that didn't know, my son wasn't feeling well, and then it turned out he was diagnosed with mono. My son is 27. I thought mono's a teenager thing. But he was miserable at first, and then I had to take him into immediate care, and they had him on an IV for an hour, and that fixed him right up. But funny thing, my son took me to a movie last night, and Jeff went and got something to drink. And I had told him to get me something to drink, and then he didn't get me anything. And I was like, okay, I have nothing to drink. And then my son's like, well, I've got water. You can share my water. And I was like, okay. And then my son says, yeah, I'm sure I'm not contagious anymore. I was like, oh, wait, he had mono. And I know that thing's supposed to last like forever. And it's like, I know he's my son, but it's like, nope, I'm not drinking out of his, no. because I don't know the full thing on mono, and not gonna do it. But he's feeling back to normal. Debbie, would be a dream to go to the rally. Being in UK makes it a big problem. I'm sure, Debbie. But we'll do Facebook Live from the prison, so you'll be able to watch too. Which actually is something I should consider too when talking about the timeline of it. That the rally then should be at 1, just like this one at 1, to make it easier when we do a Facebook Live for people to see. Okay. Thank you for asking, sexy girlfriend. Oh gosh, Mono, when you were pregnant, I can't imagine. I've heard horror stories, and my son actually came and stayed with me for some days because he lives alone in an apartment in Chicago, and he didn't want to be by himself. So he came here so, I could mom him. But like I said, the IV did wonders for him. So he feels all good, and he was scheduled to get his second COVID shot when he first was feeling horrible. So then he didn't go for his second shot, but then he went the next week. So he's got his COVID shots now, and so all is good on that. So yeah. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Or do we call it a day until we go live on Wednesday to talk again about the rally? Like I said, at the beginning of this video, I talked about the rally a lot. And now I'm putting away all these masks from last year in this bag. Natalie, did you say something about your name being mentioned in Sandy's group? I missed it. Yeah, so I again was going to pull my phone. I'm so not used to that I have two screens back. Who sent me that? This one sent me it. Let me pull up the screenshots. Oh, it's not Sandy's group. Whose group is Stephen Avery is innocent? I can't keep track of all the groups. And so it was somebody paused making a murderer when it was a family photo of Brendan in prison. So it's Brendan, Barb, Pete Dassey, and then Brian, Blaine, and Bobby, and then some woman in the bottom. And so the person said, who is the fair hair person in this photo? And then the person tagged Sandy and said, Sandy, always something odd keeps popping up around these cases, but one thing. And then the person says, so on the next screenshot I have is the person saying, I'm just curious is all. And then somebody else tagged Sandy. And then Sandy says, I have no idea. And then this person, Graham Tucker, says, wasn't he that guy who befriended the family and then screwed them over with funds and whatnot? Can't remember his name. And there was another woman who befriended Barb and Scott years ago who did their live chats and fundraising. I never had time for any of them. And then I have to go to the next screenshot for Sandy's response saying, Graham, the woman you're talking about would probably be Jax West. Not sure about this guy. So that was me mentioned in whosever group is Stephen Avery is innocent. I'm not in any groups but the ones that I run, and hard for me to keep track of whose group is whose. So I don't know whose group that is. But yeah, so the person, a woman who befriended Barb and Scott years ago, who did their live chats and fundraising. We did one live chat. No, two? Might have done two. So that's what I was referring to that somebody sent me today. And I appreciate it when my name's being mentioned. It's, nice to know what people are saying about you. You know, I'm used to it at this point. That was pretty timid compared to a lot of things that get posted about me. Natalie says they're so threatened by you because of your background with them and you not being the type to be bullied into submission. I'm going to call everything out as it is. Period. So, and now that my nephew no longer lives here and I have my computer back, I do have a book that I started writing years ago. Let me see. Can I pull it up over on my other screen? Let me see if I can find my book. Why do these start off in alphabetical order and then are not in alphabetical order? All right, let me search. See if that makes it easier to find. Go. Here we go. Last time I worked on it, oh my gosh. Last time I worked on it was 2019. October 16th, 2019. Okay, now it's pulling up over here. I'm just curious how many pages I have done that I wrote of my book. This computer is so slow. Haven't missed that part. I've got all my articles that I've written too. How many pages? Only 28 pages written. 23,333 words. So that's what I kept saying is once I get my computer back, I'm going to go back to writing my book. And talking about this case from my side of things. What I've seen. Come on, move over here. Oh, I wrote a article on the Riley Fox case in 2017. And here's an article I wrote, Ken Kratz on Dr. Drew's podcast. Gross. Gross. I'm just scanning now all the stuff that's on here. Now I find the book real easily. Manitowoc Discovery Demand? What is that? Pulling that up now. Ha ha ha. State of Wisconsin versus Jacqueline West. Now comes the above named defendant, Jacqueline West, and pursuant to section blah blah blah, demands that the state serve upon the defendant in a reasonable time before trial the following: any written or recorded statement concerning the alleged crime made by the defendant. That one's funny. All right. My take on the state's response, my making a murderer story, Lisa Zakowski's harassment, my summary of Brendan's oral arguments at the Seventh Circuit. This is my fight to do the first rally that I called From Making a Rally to Push Me, Shove You. A recap of Conversation of Justice in Milwaukee. A recap of Brendan Dassey, A True Story. Who shot her in the head? What is this? So this is the complete thing that I read to you guys that I have printed off, is where they're then saying to Brendan, who shot her in the head. 8675 Why You Lying? What is that? A song I wrote. My review of Wrecking Crew. Melissa Kaluzinski's oral arguments in 2018. Screenshots of defamation. Ashley, honestly, the whole family needs professional help. They're narcissists with a victim complex. I hope that one day they get the help they need. Hear, hear. I agree. So, as I keep going down this, oh my God, I also, when I used to write letters to Steven, I would do it on the computer, and so they're all saved on here when I would write to him. Recap of Zellner's post-conviction relief. But, okay, so I'm going to keep getting distracted by all that. But since I have my computer back, I can post some of these articles for you guys that I wrote a while ago, that for you guys all to read if interested. And we definitely will we'll start to do story time with Wrecking Crew. That could be fun. Probably won't be as fun as when I read Krat's book, because that's just a whole lot of bull smurf, and that I was able to really rip into. But Ferrick, I remember he starts off his book right away where I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe, because he said, what was it? He said something, he's talking negatively, like about Teresa Halbach right from the get-go. And so that was pretty shocking to me. Let me close that, because now I'm getting distracted looking at all my old articles, since it's been forever since I've had the use of this computer. So, all right, I'm going to call a close to this live for today. We will be going live then on Wednesday to discuss the rally. So, suggestion for y'all is, come up with some ideas for something we can do at the rally. If you've got any ideas, suggestions. Yeah, Cat. That's why I read it on live, the Kratz book, so I didn't want people to pay for it and give him any money. So it was like, so you can listen to me read it, and so you don't have to give him any money. Ugh. And it's just so much crap. But we read that a while ago. And I don't have his book. It was somebody gave me a free online version of it. So I didn't even pay for it. So way to go. He made no money off of us. So, all right. I'm going to call this to a close. Put these masks back over here. And so Wednesday, 1 o'clock in here, we'll talk about the rally. And I'll figure out what day we'll start reading Wrecking Crew. Maybe we just start reading it Monday instead of doing another talking about a case over on Justice with Jax, since we were going to do Scott Peterson today and that was a bust. So maybe we do Wrecking Crew in here. And so we would do it like we do the phone calls. That's, I read for an hour or two, and so I don't know how many parts will have to go live. Grace, is it possible to create a photo so we can upload it as a profile picture on Facebook so we can show support during the time of the rally as well, even if we are miles away? Absolutely, Grace. I'm sure that is something that Christopher would be good at doing. That's an excellent idea. We've said before for the rallies that I like if people, and we do it on Stephen Avery Project on the day of the rally, since that's the bigger one, is then we would ask people to make their own sign at home, and then take a picture of them holding whatever sign they would have held if they were at the rally, and they can post it in that thread. And then in your post, I want you to say where you live. Obviously not your exact address, but the thought being, when Stephen is free and is able to fall down all these rabbit holes and look at the stuff that Stephen Avery Project has posted over all these years, he can see how vast his supporters live, so that's always fun. And, people like making their own signs. So we'll be doing that, absolutely, Grace, on the day of the rally, that we want you to make your own sign, take a picture, get it. If you don't want to be in the picture yourself, there's a lot of people who, I hate my picture taken. So doesn't have to be your face. If you don't want your face in the picture, you leave it up to you. I've done it before where I've taken pictures of a sign with my dogs or a sign with my cat. Or, if you live somewhere where there's some famous statue, put the sign on the statue. Be creative. So, it's a way that you all who can't get to Manitowoc at the end of July can still be a part of it, so make a sign and show us your signs. Debbie asks, has Raleigh's trailer been burnt down? The one that Stephen lived in? Not that I'm aware of. When was I last in Manitowoc? We went there on what? Easter? We went there on a holiday. And the trailer was still there then. So I haven't heard anything about the trailer burning down. So, all right, I'm out. I've got more cleaning I have to do, and I got a shower still today, and I have a meeting I have to be to tonight. So, I'm out. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, and I'll see y'all on Wednesday. Investigation continues.